So this might not be news for you, but it sure is news for me. I painted a Space Marine for the first time in over 12 years. Why the heck would I do that? Well, credit honestly goes to Brent of Goobertown Hobbies and Lachlan from Zorpazorp Gaming, a couple of YouTube channels that decided that they wanted to paint one of these Primaris Marines out of the recent box in favor of their local gaming store. Here it is, my local gaming store, Red Claw Gaming in Edmonton, Alberta, is something that I came across when I moved here back in 2009. They have passed through owners, but in recent years, I think probably about 6 or 7 years ago, taken over by a fellow named Dave Bibby and Leanne Welter, and it has been the place for me to go. And so I wanted to honor them with this Space Marine paint job. So let's talk about this Space Marine for a little bit. First off, the foundation is, as you would have just seen from the signage of Red Claw Gaming, they feature red and black as their primary colors, and of course the mighty feature of the Red Claw itself. So right away that had to be a prominent feature of the Space Marine, and that dictated the color scheme. Now the challenges that I had were painting black in such a way that I could highlight it and give feature to it without making it look like it's metallic. So to do that, base coat of black obviously, but then I had to be a little bit muted with my highlights and also be careful about how sharply I did those highlights and how far to white that I went. With a bit of glazing and some color overlaps and some careful selection of where to place those things is how I tried to achieve it. Again, I wanted to do the sort of tight crossover of where you're trying to do a highlight in a place that it looks like it's still a glossy reflective surface without it looking like a sharp metallic surface. The second challenge I had was doing red in a similar way. So going through the progressions of making this try to look like a crimson red, I did have to move into a little bit of the pink spectrum to capture some highlights on this because I wanted to go in that direction rather than go into the fiery or the orange spectrum. So in doing that, that required some careful glazing as well as some shorter steps of moving from a very deep red, which I had to maintain on a lot of surface area, before I got into the sharp highlights of things. The next choice that I had to make about what would be another feature color rather. Now, knowing a bit about color theory, the opposite and complementary color to red is green. So I went with a very vibrant green as the sword here, as well as for the glowing coil that is behind his shield, and was able to carry that over into the mask visor as well. That also played a little bit of a part in the shoulder badge that you see there. That is the flag of Alberta, in case some of you were wondering. That's a reflection of that. So shows our mountainous backdrop in the skies with rolling hills and fields of grains is the whole idea of that. I had to counterbalance that with a little bit of foliage on an otherwise dry looking base, but that's how I incorporated the other color. Metallics are true metallics, both the brass and the silver. The brass was stepped up a little bit further probably than the silver was, in that I was able to move through some more muted browns that I mix in with some of my metallic paints to sort of get that contrast that moves through the spectrum of colors. So aside from that badge feature of the Alberta shield, the other important feature, of course, coming back to Red Claw, is to have that mighty red claw as the chapter symbol. So I left off the skeleton that would normally be a piece of this captain and just left the skeletal head there on the shield. I did some weathering and pockmarking in a lot of different places over the model, and then put that big red claw right smack in the middle of the shield as well as on the shoulder pad to wrap it up. So let's talk a little bit about Red Claw themselves. So they are, I guess, admittedly, probably a very heavy 40K supportive store, so that's why I thought the Space Marine was appropriate for them. But they do the full range of Games Workshop stuff, Age of Sigmar and their other sideline games. Underworlds is especially a favorite of mine. They also populate the store with other games such as Star Wars and Uncharted Waters, some Warlord games, etc. for that kind of hobbyist. They are also a shop that carries Magic the Gathering, as well as very many other hobby supplies. Marvel Crisis Protocol, I think, has been one of their more recent additions as well. But for a super hobbyist like me, what I really like is their giant wall of paint where they carry all kinds of ranges for me to get my dirty fingers into. So another part of the reason why I wanted to do this dedication of the Space Marine in this video is because game stores like Red Claw and many others across the world are having some struggling times with this COVID shutdown that's gone on. But I think that Red Claw has done a great job of accommodating that. So let me tell you a couple things about what they've done. So they've adapted their shop to have online ordering, which they didn't before, so that people can order ahead of time and do either a curbside pickup or just be in the shop for a couple of minutes to pick up and go, thus reducing the traffic and the lingering around that goes on in there. But the other thing that I find is very unique is this used to be really a great gaming hub in Edmonton. And maybe it still is when I think about it, because what Red Claw's done is they've made a schedule of booking tables, which is maybe not unique to a game shop. But what they have done that's unique to make people more comfortable and safe is that they do require that you have masks while you're gaming. They have some protocols about proximity that you're doing. Nobody touches each other's models for the sake of, playing miniature games across the tabletop. But here's the really brilliant thing. They have boxes of terrain which they throw out onto the table for you for your booking. You don't bring your own, they supply it. And then when you're done, they sweep that away, the staff cleans it up, puts it away into the back room, and then it stews there as they disinfect it for 48 hours before it gets used again. So they have a rotation for the next people with the next table booking. And I think this is a brilliant idea to keep that sort of contact transfer of this contagion at bay. So kudos to Red Claw for coming up with that scheme. So for these reasons and many others, I'm going to continue to support Red Claw Gaming, and I think that everybody in the rest of the world should always make the efforts to support their local gaming shop as well. There's certainly a temptation to do online ordering in the times that we're in right now, but these folks need us just as much as we need them. And so here's my dedication to you at Red Claw. So to Dave, to Leanne, to Matt, who actually gave me this model to paint, and to Crystal, who I see very often when I'm in there. Keep it up, and I'll keep coming.